You are listening to She Rises, a podcast dedicated to women who are ready to stop settling and start living their lives by design. If you're ready to talk about the stuff that weighs you down and get practical advice on everything from your health, body image, spirituality, relationships, and personal growth, then you're in the right place. Hello, I'm Giovanna Capozza, your host, master coach, spiritual teacher, and mind-body expert, and I'm on a mission to unsettle women all over the world. Are you ready to rise? Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of She Rises podcast. I am literally on the road recording this podcast today, and I wanted to talk to you guys about something that is a topic near and dear to my heart. It's something that I've been studying both unintentionally and intentionally, probably my entire life, and that is the science of fulfillment. See, I grew up one of these kids that, my mantra was always, I'm bored. I think my mother, I don't even know how many times she heard that and, plugged her ears and said, okay, we'll find something to do. And, when I look back, I think, well, that's really, endearing and great and part of my personality that I just like to be doing stuff and I like to be, entertained. And I found ways to do that on my own and through other means. But yet I see that pattern as I grew up. And what I see is a pattern of a constant underlying dissatisfaction. So the positive of that is that it drove me. It drove me and it helped create some of my ambition to succeed. And many of you might be listening to this and saying, wow, like that kind of resonates with me. So your ambition to succeed is not bad, right? It's not a bad thing. And for decades and centuries even, ambition plus woman was kind of a dirty word, right? Like it wasn't great or accepted even by other women to say, I'm an ambitious woman. There would be a lot of judgment attached to that. But I'm okay to say that now. And some of you listening, in fact, if you are my people and you're my audience and you listen to this podcast regularly, you're one of them, right? You're one of these ambitious, motivated women. And so today I wanted to explore this a little bit. See, my ambition started off as wanting to be someone and do something. And this boredom and feeling of lack of fulfillment and dissatisfaction, it was kind of at the core. And again, it was a good thing because it made me the ambitious woman I became. It also made me a seeker. It made me someone that put personal growth and spiritual growth as one of my top values. So all of that said, and that being a great feeder of what was to come, let me talk to you about what I'm really here to talk to you about today. And what I'm really here to talk to you about today is when you start trying to fill from an empty cup. What do I mean by that? Fulfillment and success, or anything that we look for outside of ourselves, can have two different drivers. We can have fulfillment that comes from a place of emptiness. It comes from a place of not good enough. It comes from a place of I have to prove who I am and achieve something and get something. And this could look like anything for you. This could look like I have to have the perfect marriage and the 2.2 kids and the house with the picket fence. It could look like I have to get that VP role in my company. And I have to make sure that I have all these, accolades at work and I get promotions regularly. It could be that I make this much money a year or that I have this much money in the bank. It could be, I'm married to this kind of guy, right? For the men listening, I have this kind of woman in my life. So all of these external markers that we look to say, okay, I'm fulfilled now. I'm living a full life. For me, I had all of those in a bag of chips. And then I had, I've got to have a certain body. I have to look a certain way. Or I have to get out of this town and I got to travel and I have to live my life. And that means fulfillment to me. And I'm here to tell you that none of that is bad and that it's all good. And if what is driving you is a runaway from goal, and what do I mean by that? A runaway from goal is when you're trying to run away from a feeling. And for years and years and years, I was trying to run away from the feeling of not good enough. In fact, in many ways, I still stop and slow myself down nowadays and think, okay, why am I doing this? What's my motivation here? Because that little gremlin, although we can quiet them, sometimes just still kind of lives there. And if we're not careful and we go unconscious, that little gremlin starts to take over again. So that's a runaway from goal to fulfillment. It is trying to fill a cup that has a hole in it. And what ends up happening is we become seekers of fulfillment and we never ever feel satisfied. We never ever feel success. And that's because we're trying to fill a cup that has a hole at the bottom. Now, the flip side of that is creating a run toward goal, a run toward success or fulfillment that is coming from not a cup with a hole at the bottom, but a cup that is not only fillable, but that can overflow. So what's the difference? What's the difference between having that cup with the hole at the bottom that you just never seem to be able to fill it up, no matter what you do, how many accolades you achieve, how many successes you have, just never seems to be full. You never seem to be satisfied or fulfilled, versus the cup that is fully formed at the bottom, where you're filling your cup and your cup gets so full that it, as the saying goes, your cup runneth over, and you're able to start serving the world and serving other people, including your community, from a full cup. There's a huge difference there. Now, let me tell you what the difference is. That plaster, that bottom, that difference that holds the liquid in versus has it fall right out the bottom, that there in the middle is your relationship to yourself, and most often your relationship to Source, God, the universe, whatever it is that you're comfortable using. That is the bottom of your cup. That is the foundation. That is the plaster that'll plug up that hole. Because if your relationship to yourself is wounded, if your relationship to yourself is still coming from that place of not enough, and I have to achieve, and I have to get this right, and I have to hit all these external markers, and then I'll be okay, and then I'll be happy, then we don't lead a life of fulfillment. We very often lead a life where we're just constantly searching and seeking. So that plaster, that bottom of that cup, is your relationship to yourself. So I wanted to bring you this podcast today to have you start asking the question, right? This is not about let's fix it in this podcast, let's fix it in this episode solution, but it is a topic I want to open up with you guys. Many of you, when I ask for, what do you want to hear more about on the show? It's funny, if I ask by email or, I went into the Facebook group the other day and I said, hey, what kind of shows do you guys want to hear about? And people ask about self-love or accepting themselves. And, it doesn't matter how successful you are on the outside. If you don't have that, if you don't have a healthy relationship to yourself, if you don't have your own, what I would call sacred sovereignty, then you're constantly trying to fill a cup with the bottom missing. And the cost to you, if it's not already obvious, is this unfulfilled, unsatisfied life. And very often you'll manifest illness, stress, and all kinds of dissatisfaction in relationships and at work, etc. So today, again, it's not solutions, but I want to drop this query for you. I want to drop this question into your mind so that you start looking at all the ways in which you grab at the external to fulfill you or make you feel good. And I want you to just start noticing, start creating a practice of awareness where you're noticing, am I trying to fill this empty cup with the bottom missing out of it? And all you need to do is notice it. And please don't notice it and start judging and beating yourself up. Just notice it and be curious. Curiosity is your best tool. It is your most miraculous tool because curiosity leaves an open door. Judgment shuts that door down. So I don't want you judging, but I want you to stay curious and see how many times you are reaching for something outside of yourself to fill you up or to make you feel fulfilled or satisfied or successful. And see then if you can go a little deeper and find out what it is that little girl inside of you, or for the men listening, that little boy inside of you, is actually trying to fill, is actually trying to get validated for. And this is the start of you giving that to yourself. And it starts with awareness and it starts with noticing. And I'll tell you from the work that I do privately with the men and women that I work with and in groups, as well as the work I've done on myself, this is it, right? This is the golden candy bar. This is where we really start to see massive changes and shifts in our health, in our well-being, in our careers, and even in our relationships. So that's a little food for thought today, guys. I hope that you take this episode and start looking at how the science of fulfillment is manifesting in your life. And, I use the word science, it's a little tongue in cheek, but not really. There's so many studies out there that really show the effects of stress on the body. And, even the World Health Organization at one point had on their website that 90% of all illness is caused by stress and inflammation. And what's stressing you out? I'll guarantee you that it's something outside of yourself. You're trying to fill that empty hole or that cup with the bottom missing. So guys, I'll leave you with that. Lots of love, and keep examining this. Keep being aware and keep being gentle with yourself, because this is where true transformation lies. Lots of love. Thanks for listening today. Thank you so much for tuning in, and keep rising, everyone. For books and resources related to today's episode, make sure you head over to sherisespodcast.com, and I'll see you there. If you've enjoyed today's episode, make sure you tune back in next week when I dive into more juicy topics to help make your life the best it can be. And hey, if you've enjoyed listening to the show and you love it, head on over to iTunes and leave me a rate and review and subscribe there to the show.